Hello and welcome to the Learn English Lab. I'm Mike, and today we're going on a deep dive into something that affects pretty much everyone, improving public speaking. And joining me today is Sarah. Sarah, it's amazing how many people really struggle with public speaking anxiety. Like a surprising 73% of people feel some level of anxiety about it. But thankfully, though, that fear is something we can definitely overcome.
That's very true. And what I find really fascinating is a lot of the things that make people nervous about it are actually pretty easy to fix once you kind of figure out, what they are.
Okay, so let's just address that fear right up front then. I mean, a lot of people have like a physical reaction, right? When they even think about public speaking, their heart starts pounding and their hands get all shaky. They start sweating. It's like that fight or flight thing kicking in. You know what I mean? Right.
Yeah, for sure. Those are all totally normal reactions. But instead of thinking of them as signs that everything's going to go wrong, try to think about it differently. Like maybe it's your body's way of getting ready to do something important. It's getting you ready to go out there.
I like that. So it's not about like making the nerves go away completely, but kind of like using that energy.
Yeah, exactly. And honestly, even people who do public speaking all the time, even they get nervous. I mean, I've been doing this for years and I still get those butterflies before a big presentation. The important thing is to kind of acknowledge how you're feeling and then find ways to kind of work with it.
I think it can be really powerful to just be honest about it. Like actually talk about it with your audience. Address those concerns right up front. I feel like that can create a connection right away. It's almost like acknowledging the elephant in the room.
Oh, definitely. I think that makes you seem more relatable too. It shows you're not afraid to be yourself.
Yeah.
And it lets your audience kind of connect with you and what you're saying.
And speaking of preparation, I was reading that even when you're giving an impromptu speech, even those benefit from like really thorough preparation. Mark Twain actually said, this is funny, he said, "It usually takes me more than 3 weeks to prepare a good impromptu speech." So even when you're speaking off the cuff, having that foundation is key.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Preparation is super important. And a big part of that is knowing the difference between having a plan and just memorizing a script word for word. You want to have like an outline, the key points, but you don't want to sound like a robot.
Right.
The goal is to keep things natural and just connect with your audience in a genuine way.
Okay, that makes sense. So notes are good then, but they shouldn't be like a crutch. Like you should be able to look at your notes and then look up and really engage with your audience.
Exactly. If you rely too much on your notes, it kind of creates a wall between you and your audience. It's harder for them to really focus on what you're saying.
All right, so we talked about the fear, we talked about getting ready. Now, what about the actual delivery? What are some good tips for that?
Well, this might surprise you, but slowing down your pace can really make a huge difference.
Huh, really? I would have thought that speaking faster would make me seem more, energetic and dynamic.
It's a pretty common thought, but when you speak too quickly, it can be tough for your audience to take it all in. It can also make you seem like you're nervous.
Oh, okay, so it's more about finding that balance, right? Being engaging, but also giving your audience time to think about what you're saying.
Exactly. And part of that is learning how to use pauses effectively.
Oh, like actually stopping and being quiet. How does that help?
Strategic pauses can be really powerful, like giving your audience a moment to reflect on something or building up to something you're about to say. They can really help you emphasize your main points too.
Wow, I never thought of pauses like that, but that's really insightful. How do you know when to pause, though? Are there rules for that?
It's not so much about strict rules, but more about getting a feel for the rhythm of your speech. Pay attention to where you naturally pause when you're talking to someone. Those are often good places to add pauses in your speeches as well.
Interesting. Breathing, pacing, and pauses. Got it.
Yeah.
But what about the voice itself? Is there anything we can do to improve how we sound?
Oh, for sure. Vocal modulation is really important. It just means changing up your tone, your pitch and how loud or soft you're speaking to keep the audience engaged.
Right, because nobody wants to listen to a monotone voice for like an hour. So how do we get better at vocal modulation?
A simple exercise is to record yourself reading something and then listen back to it. Just pay attention to how you're using your voice. Are you emphasizing the right words? Are you changing up your pitch and tone? Are there places where you could be more energetic?
That's a great idea. Okay, so we've got pacing, we've got pauses, and we've got vocal modulation. What about body language?
Oh, body language is huge. It can actually say as much as your words, sometimes even more.
So what should we focus on?
Well, good posture is key. It makes you look more confident and helps you project your voice.
Right, because slouching makes you look less confident.
Yeah. And then there's eye contact.
Oh man, eye contact. That's a tough one for me. I always feel like I'm staring people down or looking at the wrong person. You know what I mean?
I get it. It can feel awkward. But it's so important for connecting with your audience. Instead of trying to make eye contact with everyone, try focusing on one person at a time. Hold their gaze for a few seconds and then move on to someone else.
So it's like making those individual connections rather than trying to, scan the whole room.
Exactly. And try to pick people in different parts of the room so you're engaging with everyone.
Okay. That feels a lot less scary. What about hand gestures? Should we use them?
Oh, yeah. Hand gestures can be a really great way to emphasize your points, make things clearer, add some energy to your delivery, but you don't want to overdo it.
Right. Like we've all seen those speakers who are, waving their arms around like crazy.
Yeah. So use them with purpose, not just randomly. Think about what you're trying to communicate and let your hands kind of reinforce that.
Okay, so purposeful gestures, good posture, making eye contact, that's all great advice. But what about the actual content of the speech? How do we create something that's not only informative, but also engaging, something people will remember?
One of the most important things you can do is to know your audience. Who are you talking to? What are they interested in? What are their concerns? And what do they already know about the topic?
That makes sense. A speech that's perfect for experts might not work so well for a general audience, right?
Right. When you understand your audience, you can really tailor your message to their specific needs and interests.
Okay, so audience analysis, got it. But how do we make the content itself more engaging? Because let's face it, some topics can be a bit dry.
Well, one of the most effective ways to make your ideas come alive is through storytelling.
I love stories. But how do you work them into, say, a business presentation?
Okay, so think about the main message you're trying to get across, and then brainstorm some personal stories or examples that really illustrate that message. For example, if you're talking about customer service, you could tell a story about a time you went above and beyond for a customer, or maybe a time when you received amazing customer service.
That's a great suggestion. I think stories can make things more relatable. It's easier to connect with a story than just facts and figures.
Exactly. They help people connect with you on an emotional level.
Okay, so storytelling is key. What else can we do to make our content more compelling?
Visual aids can be incredibly effective when they're used correctly.
Yeah, that's true. We've all seen those PowerPoint presentations that are just like walls of text, or they use those cheesy clip art pictures. How can we use visuals effectively?
The key is to make sure they enhance your presentation, not distract from it. You know what I mean? They should support your words, not be the main focus.
So what are some good examples of visual aids that actually work?
Well, charts and graphs, when they're well designed, can be really good for presenting data clearly.
Especially if you're talking about financial stuff or statistics.
Exactly. And pictures can be great for evoking emotions, or giving people a sense of place.
Oh, right, like a picture of a smiling customer.
Exactly. And don't forget about videos.
Well, yeah, videos can be engaging, but they can also be risky if they're not done well. So what should we keep in mind when using video?
Yeah, I'd say make sure they're high quality, relevant, and not too long. You don't want to lose people's attention.
Okay. High quality, relevant, and concise. Got it.
What about alternatives to PowerPoint? Are there other tools out there?
Oh, for sure. There are tons of great presentation tools out there like Prezi, Google Slides, Canva. They all have different strengths and weaknesses, so play around with them and see what works best for you and the type of presentation you're giving. That's a good point. So it's about finding the right tool for the job. All right, so we covered a lot. We talked about dealing with fear, getting prepared, delivery, and creating content. But what happens after the speech? Is there anything we can do to keep getting better at public speaking?
Oh, absolutely. One of the best things you can do is get feedback from people you trust. Friends, mentors. Ask them to be honest about what you did well and what could be improved.
Yeah, that's important. Sometimes it's hard to judge your own performance, right?
Exactly. Another good way to get feedback is to record yourself and then watch it back.
Yeah, that's a great idea, like having your own personal replay.
Exactly. And don't be afraid to be critical of yourself. Even the best athletes watch recordings of their games to see how they can improve.
That's true. So it's all about learning and growing.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've got getting feedback and watching recordings of ourselves. Anything else?
If you're really serious about improving, I'd highly recommend joining a public speaking group like Toastmasters.
Oh yeah, Toastmasters. I've heard of them, but I don't really know what they do.
It's an international organization, and they provide this really supportive environment for people to practice their public speaking skills. You get opportunities to give speeches, get feedback from other members, and learn from experienced speakers.
Wow, that sounds like a great resource. It's like a gym for public speaking.
Exactly.
So we've got seeking feedback, recording ourselves, and maybe joining a public speaking group. All great advice.
You know, after this deep dive, I'm actually feeling a lot more confident about public speaking. How about you?
Me too. It's been really fun talking about all this, and I think the key takeaway here is that public speaking is definitely a skill that you can learn. Anyone can become a more confident and engaging speaker.
I agree. And I think a final thought-provoking question for our listeners is this. What are some creative ways you can use storytelling to make even like really technical or complex information more relatable and engaging? Let us know in the comments.
Yeah, that's a great question. I'm sure our listeners will have some great answers. And remember, everyone, good communication is a journey, not a destination. Keep practicing, keep learning, and keep those communication muscles flexed. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to this YouTube channel to stay tuned for more deep dives into the world of language and communication. Until next time, keep those communication muscles flexed and happy speaking.
It really is all about making that connection.
Absolutely. It's amazing how a good story can take something like, I don't know, complicated data or technical jargon and make it come alive. You know, it's like those professors who can explain quantum physics using stuff you find around the house.
Yeah, it all goes back to knowing your audience, right? What do they already know? What kind of language do they use? What are their concerns? When you understand those things, you can tell stories that they'll actually connect with.
And that's what makes it so cool when you see those aha moments, you know, when the audience suddenly gets something that was confusing before, all because of a good story.
Exactly. It's about creating those light bulb moments that'll stick with them.
Which brings up a good point about how we want the audience to feel afterward.
Yeah.
You know, it's not just about giving them the information. It's also about making them think, you know, maybe inspiring them to do something.
That's a great point. Ending with a call to action is a really effective way to do that.
A call to action. What do you mean by that?
Basically, you give your audience a clear next step. What do you want them to do with what you've shared? Do you want them to sign up for something, visit a website, or maybe just think about a certain question?
Oh, I see. So you're giving them something concrete to take away. It's not just listening passively.
Right. It creates a sense of purpose, like they're part of something, and it can leave them feeling really motivated.
Makes sense. And it goes back to that idea of really focusing on the audience, you know, what they need.
Exactly. And another good way to make an impact is to end your speech with a question that makes people think.
Ooh, I love a good question. But what kind of questions are we talking about here?
Well, maybe something that challenges how they see things or encourages them to look at the topic in a different way. You could even ask a question that gets them to explore the topic more on their own.
I like that. So it keeps the conversation going even after the presentation's over.
Yeah, a really well-crafted question can stay with people, you know? It
Yeah.
leads to more thinking and discussion.
And that's what a truly great speech does, right?
Yeah.
It sparks something, whether it's curiosity, inspiration, or a desire to take action.
You got it. It's about creating an experience, connecting on a deeper level, and leaving the audience feeling like they can do something.
Yeah, it's like we're all learning and growing together.
That's the power of public speaking. It brings people together, starts conversations, and can even change the world, you know?
And speaking of bringing people together, you know, public speaking isn't just about formal presentations. It's a skill we use all the time.
Oh, absolutely. Think about it. Leading a team meeting, pitching an idea to a client, even just talking to a friend, all those principles of good public speaking can help us communicate better and with more confidence.
About being present, being yourself, and really thinking about what you say and how you say it. no matter the situation.
Yeah, and communication goes both ways, right? It's not just about what you say, but also about listening and responding to the other person.
That's so important. It's about building relationships, understanding each other, and finding that common ground.
And that's what makes public speaking so fascinating. It's not just about getting your point across, it's about connecting with people on a real level.
Well said. So, for our listeners out there, here's a question for you to think about. How can we use those public speaking skills to communicate better every day? Not just in those formal settings, but also in our personal and professional lives. Let us know what you think in the comments.
That's a great question to leave them with.
And as always, thanks for joining us for this deep dive into the world of public speaking. Remember, becoming a better communicator takes time and practice, but it's totally worth it. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to this YouTube channel to stay tuned for more deep dives into the world of language and communication. Until next time, keep those communication muscles flexed and happy speaking.
It really is.
It's been great having you on, Sarah. Your insights have been amazing.
Oh, thank you. The pleasure's been all mine. I always enjoy chatting about this stuff.
And for everyone listening, remember, getting good at public speaking takes time and practice.
It does, but it's so worth it. Being able to communicate well can open so many doors, in your career and in your personal life.
That's so true. And we're all in this together, right? We can learn from each other and encourage each other to keep getting better.
What a great thought.
And on that note, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to this YouTube channel for more deep dives into language and communication. Until next time, keep those communication muscles flexed and happy speaking.